stories.
Okay.
So Tracy Reese is probably one of the ultimately known African American designers where she sits on boards. We know her dresses for Tracy's. First Lady Michelle Obama wore her dress. It's important to know her. It would be great to know more of us. So I admire her story because when reading her story, it's kind of my same journey. Your parents, her dad helped her, in terms of growing her clothing brand. She took steps, in building her brand to now she's Tracy Reese. She's an empire. She's a woman owning her business and owning what she does. So I admire her and her journey. Other designers that I like in terms of style aesthetics and kind of changing the game. When I was younger, I admired Betsy Johnson because she was fun.
I can see that.
Yeah, she was just fun. And, she's a seasoned woman now, but she still exudes like life lived. And you can tell it through her clothes. She tells her story of who she is through her clothes, and she has a particular market. And it's fun, it's classy, it's edgy. So I enjoy her a lot. Marc Jacobs is another one. I love his sense of color. Sometimes he'll go a little out there in terms of presentation, and expression in terms of showcasing, but colorfully. Sometimes you're like, is it cultural appropriation? But, and you're an artist, you're a designer. Sometimes you overstep them boundaries. But yeah, so those are kind of people that I look at, admire, and their story and their style. What got me into design was really the brand Benetton.
Really?
Yes. Oh,
but
yeah.
I can see that with your personality, though.
Yeah. Benetton really tuned me in at a young age. My parents weren't about, my parents provided what we needed, not what we wanted, even though they could. But I happened to be, and I always tell the story because it's important. I happened to be my godparents' only girl at the time because I had several god brothers. And so so I was their only girl. So they could dress this girl. My godparents are the ones I looked at for style. They were stylish, and my parents were stylish and, conservatively stylish, but I mean, my godparents would turn it on. It's like, oh, so fly, the fedoras. My godmother wore red big glasses. So they were spoiling me, but in a sense, I didn't know brands. Right. And it wasn't a thing they were buying for brands, but they recognized this cool brand, the quality of. So they put me in this stuff. So that's how I learned about Benetton. And as I got older, I always continued to look at Benetton from their ads, them putting out social action, political things to make us see differently, but they're doing it in a way where they're using their vessel in fashion. So I always admired that brand.
I can totally see that in how you carry yourself and just you overall. Like when you're saying that, I'm like, yeah, I totally see the influence that's had on you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, definitely. Definitely.
Now I'm confident without a shadow of a doubt that you are going to be one of those people that they say you're overnight success. Like you are definitely an overnight success in the making, of course, with over 18, 20 years of experience in building your brand in the process. But when it comes to you proving it through CR Clothing Company and the Concoction Workshop, how has the journey built your resilience muscle?
It's hard. You have to, having your own business and being in a particular industry where it takes a lot of you and it takes a lot of funding. This is an expensive profession to have. It's an expensive gift to have too, because you really have to invest in yourself. So the resilience is already there, knowing that, okay, you can't remove yourself from your gift. You go through times where you're like, when am I going to have that breaking moment? When is the world going to know about CR Clothing Company, Charla Ruschelle? You know that you're of worth with your talents and your gifts, just on the responses of your clientele and how you make people feel when they're wearing your wares. So you're like, okay, that helps you to keep going. Because there are moments you ask yourself, well, if you leave, what are you going to do? You could do this, but are you going to be happy? So I always have to go back to that. And then it's you don't want to let yourself down. So it's like, well, if you're not going to let yourself down, you can always, I forgot what they said. It was a messaging, but you can always refresh basically yourself. Not necessarily a rewind button, but rejuvenate yourself. So if this didn't work, just sit in self for a moment. And you have to have a lot of that, because as artists, having those artist blocks, are challenging, but you don't want to sit in them too long, because it can be bad. So that resilience, and that, I still look forward. My parents are retired. Even though they're retired, I want them to be retired better than they are retired. I'm getting near 40 this year, and there are things that I want in place. I can't. You can't determine your path so much. You have to let God lead you. And you got to maintain that faith, which can also be sometimes a struggle. But at the same time, what else do you have? What else are you going to lose if you don't? So that resilience, and then just knowing that there's a need for you. So as long as you say in your head, there's a need for me and my purpose I'm going to serve. So this currently is how I know how to serve. Now, what my end result may be is the unknown. But I'll definitely, I want to keep going. So I'm never trying to be like, oh, would it have happened?
I love that you said that. As long as you know there is a need for your purpose. Like, I think that's so essential for anyone growing a business, an entrepreneur, a solopreneur. You know that there's a need, and that's your fuel. I think sometimes people might disconnect from it because, like you're saying, the ups and downs and the investments required, it might get foggy.
Mm-hmm.
But if you just keep it in your forefront, you won't lose that focus. Yep,
absolutely. Just take a walk. Sometimes you just got to take a walk and come back to it,
I love that. So Charla, what's your process of creating timeless pieces, that fits the current trends but remains in demand?
So trends, I don't really follow trends because I create timeless pieces. So if you create timeless pieces, it has no timeline, and trends kind of have that timeline. I'm in trend when it comes to color, because if the industry, they forecast colors. So the fabrics are already out there. There are certain things already set up for you, in terms of, in the current trend. I have, when you say you have a gift, I kind of have a gift. Like, I'm before time, but right on time. Because I don't follow it doesn't mean that it doesn't make sense for the current. And in most cases, I have created things that I'm like, I did that years ago, or I did it and then I see it, for another season, maybe, longer sleeve instead of shorter sleeve.
Okay.
So, So those type of things, I don't really pay attention to it. I get so many fashion magazines that come to my shop, and I never really had time to look through them. That's try to keep in the know. We were taught in school, to keep up with, women's wear daily, certain things to keep up with trends and just pay attention to. And I try to, but when you're a business and you're the manufacturer and you're the marketer, you got to just go with how you feel. And then also your clients, what are my clients looking for? What do they really, love, or again, what's the need? Because if the trends are out there already, then what's the need of you doing it?
True. That makes sense.
I've never been a follower.
No.
And I pay attention, but at the same time, at the end of the day, I think fashion is about the individual. And now we're in a world where kind of anything goes, but that doesn't mean it's right. But I know I make stuff that makes sense. I say a lot of times, I'm like, I just make regular clothes. I'm not that avant-garde. I'm not, that couture or, making things out of plastic and it's going to the runway. No, that's not me. I was told that, what did somebody say to me? I did this competition thing, and the comment was kind of made that, mainstream or mass or something mainstream. And commercial. It's commercial. And it kind of sounded like it was a negative. I'm like, well, if my apparel is commercial, isn't that a positive? So that means commercial, that draws in majority of regular people.
It does.
So, yeah. So I'm okay with not necessarily being, this one of a kind, exotic, out of the box kind of fashion designer. I just like women to feel good because I want them to show up in that boardroom and show out. And then once they show out in the boardroom, they can meet their girls for happy hour, still in their outfit, and still be like, yep, I showed out today. And their girls are like, and you look good.
Yes, a girl's dream, right?
Yes. Yep, absolutely.
Now, advice. Everyone gives us advice, and sometimes we don't listen. Sometimes we don't realize in the moment that this is something that we need to listen to. So if you can turn back time, what advice would you have, like personally and professionally, what advice do you wish you had received earlier or had listened to earlier in your journey that you hold true today?
Advice personally, I probably would have taken, that's a good question. Personally, professionally, kind of goes hand in. I would have gone overseas. And that's kind of personally too. You want to make sure you obtain everything within what you are trying to do. And if you want to be the best at it, you do want to explore it further. You want to go out of your comfort zone, and see if you can handle it. I personally should have taken myself away from my HBCU a little bit, a summer or so, and gone overseas, and taken that time to maybe work with a fashion house as a summer type internship instead of trying to do so much on my own so early, because I was about being a boss at 18, 19, and I still had I was still wet behind the ear. that's really what I would have done, personally and professionally. And then, just taking the advice of, finances, whether it was, I always worked, like I've been working since the age of 14, since I could get a worker's permit, and I always had a job. I should have done better with my money, but if you're not educated on how to do better, you are playing catch up. And so, when I was told make investments early, I didn't. I wanted to enjoy the fruits of my labor then. And if I had taken those investments early, I could have been in a better position earlier, in my career, in terms of I could have pumped out a line, and went to a manufacturer. I could have done a lot more giving off the work than having to do it myself. So that would be it.
Those are great shares. And I hope that it resonates with the listener in the fashion industry. I hope they listen and they learn from your experiences. It might prevent them from having to reach their goal a little, instead of later, sooner. Right?
Yeah, and start smaller. People found that I wanted to do it all. Like, I wanted to make kids' clothes, men's wear, women's swimsuits, maternity, plus size. I wanted to do it all because I want this fashion house. I want this big empire. But I had to start scaling down, because once people find out, because it's not a common thing as much as people think. It's not common to know how to sew. It's not common to know how to sew as a fashion designer. Some people just sketch. Some people will label themselves as a designer making T-shirts. But you have those different, kind of avenues. But I had to scale down, because what ends up happening, you have all these people coming at you for different things. Oh, can you make me a blazer? Oh, can you make me a suit? Oh, I'm going to Costa Rica. Can you make me a swimsuit? So you have all these coming at you, and you're like, it's a creative overload. But I had to tunnel myself and say, what are you good at? What are you really good at? Because yeah, you can sew, but you have to get in the mindset of, you're a brand. What's your brand? How does one identify your brand? Why would people come to you, and what are they coming to you for? So you have to make sure that is explained and people understand it, which took me some time too, because I had to pull away those layers of everybody knowing what I do, even on, the terms of my title, the fashion designer versus the seamstress. So I'm still communicating the difference, in terms of, this is what I do, this is what I offer. So those type of things, I would give it personal advice to really concentrate. If you're good at making toddler sweatsuits and you can change it up, and you're doing well at doing toddler sweatsuits, stay in the toddler field until you get help to open up the door for you to be able to do other things. Yes, eventually I want to get into another category, but I want to make sure the category of women's wear is set and successful first and foremost, because if it's not, there's no point in me going somewhere else that I have only started to explore. So that's kind of advice I would give. Just, give yourself tunnel vision, because as artists, we can be all over the place.
Some, yes.
Some, yes, at times. Your brain's always going. You're always like, ooh, that's next. Or, you see stuff, ooh, I can do that. It's always constant, or somebody comes to you and is having a hard time finding a piece, or, it's not the right fit. And you're like, ooh, like, I can see something on you. I can make it. Now you open up a box because you made this beautiful garment or whatever that suited this person. That person told another person, and that person told another person. So now you got a whole different category of people coming, and you're like, I don't really do that. That was just, at one time. So it could be good and it could be bad.
Authentically an artist.
Yeah.
Now, I know that you participated in a couple of, like a campaign, a showcase. What did participating in, was it the Belk Southern Designer Showcase? And then I know you did a Kickstarter campaign. So what did those experiences teach you about courage and determination?
Well, the Kickstarter, it was courage because you are putting yourself out there to ask for help. And, in business, they always, you start with asking your friends and family. But when you have Kickstarter or something of that sort, friends or family are coming to play. But now you open that for people that don't know you. Are they going to believe in your product? Are they going to believe in your merchandise? And are you going to be able to achieve the goal in which you really need in terms of funding? So that took some courage, and you want to put yourself out there and make a great presentation because you want people to believe in what you have going on as much as you believe in yourself. But you're going up against a lot of other Kickstarter challenges. So that would be, that was kind of challenging. I'm glad I did it. I didn't meet my goal, but because Kickstarter, you got to set your goal. And if you don't make your goal, you don't get anything, which there's other ones. But the goal, where I was happy that it got there because I'm like, okay, that let me know not only my friends and family do believe in me. These people are willing to invest in me. And that's another word that I prefer. Invest and not support, because you're investing in me. I have enough support per se, but I need investment because you need return on your investments. You can't get a return on your support. So Kickstarter, that was cool. The Southern Designer Belt last year for Belt, I had other designers that had actually won the past years. And we have a designer community, women of color, men of color. We have our little designer dinner parties that one of the designers in the group, she hosts. And we were sitting for dinner or whatever, and the other designers, we were talking, they're like, you need to enter. You need to enter, what have you. And I was like, oh gosh, these competitions, I'm like, I don't really feel them, because I'm like, what does it offer? Because at the end of the day, you take time to prepare for this, and you want it to move. If you are selected as a winner, you want your stuff to move. Is my stuff going to be in stores? Who's going to pay for the manufacturing? Because I can't, all those things. So the competition in itself was good of what they offered. And so I submitted my information and all that good stuff. And out of thousands or whatever of applicants, I was picked I was like the 15 finalists in total. And right there, that was awesome. Like, I'm in the 15. Like, this is crazy.
Sensational.
Yeah, I'm like, this is absolutely crazy. What if I didn't do it? That whole thing. But that was good. That made me feel good in terms of being selected as a finalist and going up against other phenomenal designers to be placed in this department store. The outcome wasn't in my favor. Of course, I had wanted to win and all that good stuff. But again, I looked at it in a different way in terms of, the design aesthetics in which, they chose, what market they really have for their department store. And I just, I had to say, okay, well, this wasn't the place for me. I have to be positioned somewhere else. So what avenue can I take if they don't have a competition of a department store that I do have in mind? What avenue can I take to present my clothes to them? So all it did was fuel me to be like, oh, okay, okay, y'all didn't pick me, but guess what? I'm going to be chosen, So, so that teaches you that's determination. Like that ultimately is determination, because that can break somebody. It hurts or whatever because you work hard. You're like, oh, this may be it. This may be it. And then you're like, nope, not today. So
the battle scars.
The battle scars. There's a lot of them.
The battle scars. But a lot of them, they're pride, right? You're proud of them. So.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah. And I have a story. Like, nobody can ever take away from me that I don't have a story to tell or the journeys that I've taken. Because ultimately, ultimately for myself, I want to be a fashion influencer in some way, whether it's on a big scale or a small scale. If I can inspire others, whether it's in the field of fashion or just anything else, they can hear from somebody that's real and lived it and, see different than what may be presented on TV or social media or things of that sort. Really, be able to be like, okay, so this is the journey. This may not be necessarily my journey, but there is a journey to it.
Okay, yeah. So maybe not battle scars, maybe tattoos, because some tattoos are attractive and people want to come and know the story behind it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's cool. I got those too.
Okay. Definitely. Okay, Charla, what do you enjoy most about building and promoting your brand? Because there's so many facets that you shared today with me and the listeners. So what do you enjoy most?
What do I enjoy most? In promoting my brand, I enjoy it being fun and personable. So if I have to, when I model my clothes for social media, you're seeing Charla Ruschelle. So it's like, it's not any made up or whatever. It's Charla Ruschelle showing her clothes for you. Like, this is you, but you're going to do it in your way. So I enjoy promoting it. Social media, at first you're like, I don't want to do social media. But it's a thing. Like, it's required. So if it's required, I like to be able to tell picture stories, because IG is that. So I'm able to tell stories. It helps me creatively in marketing, which it wasn't my strong point. I'm the creative, but really marketing, having that consistency, and concept of how you're going to market your brand and put it out to people. So I enjoyed that. That's fun, in showing my product, and being able to show my true self, and be uncensored. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fun. And being recognized for that. You show up and like you're fashioned up, and I'm like, I'm just being me, but because that is so natural, not just to me, but to others, that's a feel good of your product, because automatically anything I wear, it's automatically CR Clothing Company. And it's not necessarily the case. I do wear most of my stuff. But anything, people really are like, oh, that's you, of that sort. And, the same thing comes to my clients. And that's really a proud moment of products when my clients are like, oh, I got so many compliments, cause you're never sure when your clothes go off, cause I'm doing everything myself. So me putting my hands on everybody's garment, like every single garment I have made thus far have been from these hands. And that's a story within itself. But when a client or a customer or somebody new obtains it, and then you hear their feedback, it's rewarding, because you're first wiping your forehead, and then you're like, that's awesome. Like, I wanted to make you feel good. I wanted you to own it. It's yours, So that's fun. I always like to see that, and then especially on social media, because you're like, they posting it. She is loving life. So yeah, that's definitely a feel good.
It's a confidence booster both ways.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, so what lessons has your supporters and investors, which I know you also call them Charla Angels, what have they gifted you?
They gifted me with having the confidence and to persevere and to continue on my journey. I wouldn't want to let them down, even though it's personal to me as a factor, not really of letting them down being a factor, but because you have people that just believe in your gift, whether they even purchase something from you, or I have people that follow me and they're anticipating to buy something. They're ready, but they're waiting for it to be for a special moment for them. That keeps me going. The client, they're honest, and honesty is good for me, and good criticism is good for me as well. Customer service is a big, big part of me. Cause I want you happy. Cause if you're not happy, it's then negatives, and nobody has time for negativity, or that type of energy. So I have been gifted with those that feed me positive energy, give me assurance that you're in the right path. You're going to be great. And nobody knows when I'm going to be great, but at that point, I already know that, well, I'm great. They see me as it, but they are anticipating the greatness to come. And they don't know how. I don't know how either. It may not be directly as a fashion designer. Again, it may be a fashion leader, influence, a mentor, within the industry or something of that sort. But they'll feed me like, don't you ever stop this, because again, there's a need for whatever your purpose is here. So I think that's my gift from clients and customers. And you see, I give the difference sometimes between clients and customers, because customer every day, what have you, clients are continuous. Those are your investors too. Clients become your investors because they're investing in you. They're investing in their wardrobe. And that makes them special. To be a Charla Angel, they're like, I'm a Charla Angel. It's a title that, they have earned, and they suit the brand. They are of my mission. They are of my purpose, and why I create CR Clothing Company.
I love it.
Yeah.
Indeed. Now, I think it's awesome that you offer sewing classes too. So, with that being said, what do you want future and fellow fashion designers to keep in mind as they work on developing their craft?
As they continue to develop their craft, I always advise, think outside the box. not necessarily the craft in which you're creating, but how could you still do what you love, but on another wavelength? Yeah, I'm good at fashion. Yeah, I'm good at design. Yeah, I make pretty dresses or what have you. But again, my beginnings began with sewing. So if I'm able to use my skill to teach the next generation or adults or what have you, or those that are interested in sewing, whether it's a hobby or trying to get there to become a designer or seamstress of that sort, that you always have something to fall back on that you still enjoy. You know, what made you get into design? How can you take what got you into design to ultimately provide another service of your purpose? Because fashion evolves, it changes. We're now in fast fashion. So as we go years in technology and stuff like that, things are going to come as a challenge and replace a lot of things. You have Forever 21, H&M, Amazon, those type of things have replaced really coming into a boutique like mine, or willing to understand or learn about quality of clothes or tailoring or alterations or getting that custom piece, or why it costs more to come in here to get a dress than go to H&M. So you have to learn how to balance those challenges and where you sit to where you can ensure that there's longevity in terms of your path in fashion and apparel. Because those are the battles, we're going up against. Technology, our manufacturers, you're not going to need physical people there soon. You'll just have machines doing all the work and pumping out. So how are you going to compete with these machines? So those are the type of things I would say, to the next, really don't always sit exactly in the creative side of your brand. Ask yourself, what else can my brand provide other than just merchandise? Because you're going to need it. You're going to need, some type of backup. Because that's just the world, we're moving into. And, this industry, a lot of people want to be fashion designers. A lot of people want to be fashion stylists. Yes, there's a pot open for everybody to, put their spoon in, but it used to be hard. It used to be hard to get into, whether a school's, providing portfolios, whether, applying for jobs in certain positions is hard. It was harder. It wasn't easy. Like you could just get in it. Now the avenues have opened up to where, again, people are starting their own. They're making their money. Instagram, they're doing their t-shirt lines. They're making hats, all those type of things. You have all those things you're going up against. So it's like, how can you change the game and be true to yourself and what you are trying to present in the fashion world? And as a woman of color that has worked in corporate America, in apparel and fashion, there is not a lot of us. So I do advise those to be mindful of that in terms of make sure your resume is on point. And when I say resume, meaning your skill, your knowledge, taking the time to do research, not just asking, not just trying to get by, or think things that are going to come to you. You have to be ahead of the game, and you want to know. You honestly want to know. because world is challenging and people will challenge you.
Yes, they will.
Yeah.
Being multifaceted is everything at this point.
Everything. I mean, Google, I wish I had Google back then. You know, I wish I knew entrepreneurship was such a cool thing to really do, or it had its name when I was younger. Because I was making, I don't know, those things, those tie things. I was making funny earrings and weird earrings and scrunchies and all that stuff at a young age. But did I think, oh, let me sell it? Now you got 7-year-old, 8-year-olds making bow ties and have $1 million businesses.
Yes.
So, you know, like.
Most bows.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm like, this is awesome. You know, this is awesome. So, you know, the next generation, whoever, it's like, you have no excuse. You know, you have no excuse to do dope things and do it in a way that you are strategically educated and knowledgeable of the industry in which you are going into. And that's across the board, especially in art. You got to know the beginnings in order to get ahead. And if you don't know your past, then, you know, you can't really speak on anything because you only know a part of that story. And you need to have it all so that you can make sure you do it differently and better than what the past provided you in terms of starting your journey. So, yes, ma'am.
The wisdom. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I got a lot of gray hairs because of it.
Hey, they're beauty marks. Beauty. Now,
absolutely.
What's next for CR Clothing Company and Charla Ruschelle? What do you have in the works?
So in the works, I'm looking to get a manufacturer because my workload has gotten heavy, which is a positive thing. But I do need assistance. So I am looking for a manufacturer, or I'm looking for that nice old lady that can come into my shop and just loves to sew, listen to some good music, and, you know, it's therapeutic for her and we can make great, clothes. But that's one side. But ultimately, as I'm working on my fall and winter collection, and that's the thing, I'm going back into designer mode more of because I've been running this business, my shop. So I've just really been creating inventory, you know, for my website and my shop. But I'm getting back tunnel vision as fashion designer and creating a collection, you know, cohesive collections, and want to start putting it out there again. As, you know, I spoke earlier about, you know, a department store that I would or a department store I want to come at. So that is what I'm currently building and working because I have some trips that I want to take and have that line and show up and show out to present and build on getting some more accounts under my belt. So
well, I totally wish you the best with all of what you want to accomplish. So
thank you.
I just think it's fabulous. Now, Charla, I definitely appreciate you being a guest on the Career Tipper podcast. And we always end the episodes with our signature ending of the guests share their favorite quote or affirmation about what keeps them creating career tipping moments. So what's your affirmation or quote?
Affirmation or quote? It's funny. I just use my alma mater. Find a way or make one. And that stays with me every day. Find a way or make one and stay fashionably fly doing it. CR.
Short and to the point. A call for action, right?
Absolutely.
So how can the listeners get in touch with you?
The best way would, of course, be Instagram. I'm at CRCCO, again, at CRCCO. And I'm also on IG for my shop, Concoction CCC. So it has 3 C's on the end. So it's Concoction CCC. That would be the quickest way to get to me, and I can respond, and you can see all the fabulous things that I do, and inquire in my DM. Again, I'm personable. And as well as my website is www.crclothingco.com.
Thank you so much. And you can find me, Michelle Beatty, at careertipper.com, on Instagram at careertipper, Facebook careertipper, Twitter careertipper1, and you can subscribe and follow to the podcast on Spotify, Stitcher Radio, and iTunes. Thanks for listening, and remember to be confidently you and sign up for our newsletter at careertipper.com as well. Thanks.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Career Tipper Podcast. We're grateful for our listeners and guests. For more resources about how to evolve to your professional best, share your comments and feedback about this episode and your suggestions for future guests, visit careertipper.com. Until next time, be confidently you.